I came in with a lot of steam and I was all excited and I wanted to take over the world and do everything. I wanted to do windows, I wanted to do siding, I wanted to talk about doing additions and decks. It sounds stupid, but just be the best. Just be the best and then worry about growing.
Charleston roofs and windows.
Charleston roofs and windows, that's right. So, when we first moved into this office, I think it was about 2 years ago now, we ended up starting with a clean slate, which was great. So before we kind of moved into another office when we were smaller and we kind of adapted to what we had.
How long have you been in business altogether?
We've been in business since 2012.
12 and 2 years in here.
Yes. So it was really starting to get wheels a little bit before that, but it didn't get established and really create that name and have a structure until 2000.
When you started, have you always been doing the windows or you've been adding them?
So that's kind of a funny origin of the business, but really it started as roofing. And I wasn't the owner at that time, and there was some sort of thing that happened where basically we were looking for an LLC and we wanted to be Charleston Roofing. So my partner now has a heating and air business that's Charleston Heating and Air, and it kicks butt on everything, on Google, on whatever. Back then it might have been Yellow Pages, right? So we wanted something like that just for more of the marketing piece, and it was easy for people to find us. And I think Charleston Roofing was taken, so they added and windows. And at the time, the general manager was, really a door knocker. And that's kind of a big piece of what the business was initially. And he used to sell windows door to door. So we said, hey, we can sell windows too.
So would you say that Charleston Roofing helps with the SEO and just brings you leads?
It does. And, we should have done a better job at the time when we first became established of buying up more similar names, because more similar names have been bought. So we bleed a lot of leads out to competitors. So we have one in particular that actually, I'm sure it goes both ways. He gets a lot of our calls and vice versa. But
people do search that. They search your town and they search your number one service.
Yep, roofing in Charleston, right? So this is Martin Summer, our controller.
Controller.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Martin also helps out a lot with operations and does a lot of the scheduling and actually runs operations meetings as well.
Can I look at your books?
Of course.
High effective people.
Yeah, I got a lot over there. You can walk over there if you need.
Sure. What's your favorite book here? The book would you recommend?
It depends on what you're trying to read. I think Influence by Cialdini is really good. I think Principles by Ray Dalio, I like that a lot too.
Love the American flag in the window.
Isn't that nice?
I know.
I can always see what traffic's going to look like before I leave.
Basically, that partner that Blake was talking about left. One key component that took us a long time to realize that left with that guy was understanding our numbers. So that's really what the need for finding someone like Martin was to really understand them and to data aggregate. So, we knew how to track numbers when they were in front of us, but pulling them and organizing them was something that we weren't very good at doing. So,
what do you feel like the hardest how is this business is different from any other business in your opinion, or other like big corporate accounts or corporate business?
Well, definitely, I think I heard Garrett say earlier that everybody's kind of got to wear a lot of hats here. We're all trying to pick it up and do our own. Each day's a little bit different, where in a large corporate business, things are much more structured, of course.
This is really our production office. And we've got, so the way that we run our business and kind of how it's evolved from start to finish is we realized that when we first started out, as Blake kind of mentioned before, we knew how to sell, right? We knew how to generate business.
So you're one of those sales companies who don't know how to roof.
Originally. But, one thing I think that is one of our strengths is we're not afraid to be self-critical. We're pretty reflective on what our issues were. So I would say, something like 3-4 years ago, we started to recognize that. We were selling a lot. We had a lot of revenue coming in with just as many headaches as we grew. So when I first bought in, Blake and I said, we want to restructure the company. We want to change this thing. We don't know what we want it to look like. So we actually flew out to Denver. We had some, different connections out there in the roofing industry, and obviously it's a saturated market. They know a lot more, probably more than we did at the time. So one of those people is my uncle that was out there, and he said, listen, it sounds stupid, but just be the best. Just be the best and then worry about growing. And that really sunk in with me. So I mean, it's a vague brushstroke, but it means
So
be the best
true.
in everything.
Such a good advice. Just be the best.
Yeah. We have an operations meeting every week. So I guess the guys come in the office for that, but they come in here to get their orders done. Just being around the office and seeing people kind of helps. So that's what this room is. I'll show you a room down at the end that was originally designed to be the sales room, but it's really just kind of where we go to escape and be quiet. Hi, Dan.
Hi.
This is Danielle, and Danielle does all of our accounting and supplementing.
Supplementing too, like you work with Xactimate?
I do. Yes.
How did you learn that?
I took mostly self-taught, and I also took the Art of the Supplement classes.
I hear a lot of complaints about insurance companies not answering phone calls, changing how they, accept or don't accept pictures, documents, stuff like that.
Right. The end of 2020 was rough, but 2021 has been okay so far. It depends on the insurance company. I know around the country it's different for lots of different insurance companies. State Farm for us is actually really easy. USA used to be easy, and now it's not. So just changing with the times and their policies.
This has been a myriad of offices. I kind of adopted it, but like I said, I don't like to spend a whole lot of time in the office. So I'm out in the field a lot.
This feels like you're outside. Look at this glass. I
Yeah.
like that American flag there so much.
Yeah. It's, one of the benefits of moving into this office was it was so much nicer than our last one.
What's up with the Dell computers? You don't like quality stuff?
Oh, are you partial to Apple? You seem like kind of a cult follower with some stuff. You're like one of those CrossFitters. You don't eat. You only like Apple stuff.
Yep.
This is actually some stuff that I was whiteboarding with Ben Menchaca here.
Huh.
So
When was he here?
he wasn't here, but we Zoomed.
Oh,
So, I kind of flipped my
I see.
laptop around and I was, trying to figure out some different comp plans for sales guys. And we talked about, what's competitive in the market. But, everyone usually gets a good laugh because when I run up to the whiteboard, everyone kind of says, oh boy, here he goes. But, I'm just a visual person. So most of the time when I'm writing stuff on the whiteboard, it's usually process oriented or explaining, technical installation methods and products and things like that. Hi, Jess.
Hey, how are you?
So this is Jess Turner, and Jess is our sales lead coordinator.
Yeah.
And
you have two sales guys?
yep, and myself. So we had 3 sales guys before, and we're in the process of trying to hire that 3rd person back.
What's your title? Sales coordinator?
Sales lead coordinator. So all inbound calls and inbound leads. And
How many do you get per day?
If we're running a rolling average of what we're really trying to target, and we're just talking roofing, no other kind of leads, we're looking for about 6 a day, sometimes 8.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah. So, kind of have our company swag and, office supplies in here. And we used to work off of a remote server. And I know that I talked to you about that. We have a technology company that basically said, you need this and you need that. And we kind of...
Is that what they gave you?
It's some of the stuff they gave us. It used to be a much bigger rack with more stuff. And as we've been integrating more stuff into online, we're realizing more and more we don't need that stuff. All we need is someone to manage, internet, email, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
It's a big printer. I was trying to get one of them 3 years ago for my business.
Yeah.
And they give you is it yours or are you renting it?
We're renting it, unfortunately. Yeah. I wish we bought it. So we do a lot of direct mail. So I'm sure you're familiar with the direct mail letters that a lot of companies would send out.
How efficient is that?
Less and less each day. More and more people are doing it. And, the consumer is getting wiser. So people are understanding, what to open, what not to open, that kind of thing. So, we're trying to diversify our marketing and not necessarily rely on that much. And it's been working. We've done a great job with bridging away from that, but it's still a useful component in the marketing fold. So we still use it.
I love all of those windows, man. At least you have enough sunlight here.
Yeah, we used to be in a dungeon, so it's nice to have a little bit more sunlight coming in.
Looks like COVID definitely affected manufacturing. Is it common for all windows, like most window companies?
Some are better than others. It's just like anything. If you have a market shift, some people adapt better than others, right? So, I certainly wouldn't want to highlight any brands being bad.
Of course, of course.
It's,
But manufacturing definitely slowed down on their end more than like shingles. Makes sense because
it's more about personnel
labor
control.
Yeah.
Because you could talk about it all day, I guess. But if you had to hit the highlights, you have a lot less people trying to output the same thing. And if you have a widget that you're creating with 7 steps in the widget process and 1 person for each step, COVID hits. Now you've got 3 people on those same 7 steps. They're great at the thing that they used to do, but then when you try to train them on something else, and they're worried about profitability and getting product out on time, it's just they like to shift slowly. They don't like those violent shifts in the market. So we actually are getting away from installing siding altogether. So that was another thing that was a growing pain and something we were trying to learn
Are you gonna keep windows? So windows without siding?
Probably going to be phasing out windows until we can get everything figured out with manufacturing. It's just almost impossible to run a job properly for me right now, because if I'm waiting 10, 12 weeks to get a window in, and then we unwrap the windows when they come in, and we're at a customer's house and there's a crack in it or something that's the wrong size or the wrong window, we wait another 10, 12 weeks. I just can't afford to do it.
Do you do anything digital with the contracts?
We're moving into going as digitally as we can. Part of it is, change is tough kind of thing just for us. And then part of it is we still have a lot of older clients that don't like going digital and they like seeing a piece of paper. One thing that we've found is digitally signing something doesn't seem to have the same gravity and the same impact as a piece of paper.
I was just about to say that. I love the technology. I personally will sign anything on the phone. I love DocuSign. Like if you would send something to me, I'm like, just send it, I'll sign it. I would prefer on my phone. I don't like print. I don't like picture. But when you sell $20,000 roof, it makes perfect sense to sign something. You feel like you're obligated now.
Right.
Like just like buying a car. You go buy a car and you did not sign in person and sign it electronically. Like, did you really buy it?
Right. I guess, we talked about kind of the ups and downs, and it was definitely one of my downs when, kind of even ties in with siding. When I bought into the business, I came in with a lot of steam and I was all excited and I wanted to take over the world and do everything. I wanted to do windows, I wanted to do siding, I wanted to talk about doing additions and decks. And again, really got into more of a sales mentality instead of a how did we build the process mentality. And I ended up just stressing myself out, working way too much. And it got to the point where I started to, not really from yelling, but just from talking so much, I ended up having issues with my vocal cords that I had to have surgically worked on. So at the time, I was still, running company meetings, sales meetings, all that kind of stuff. And I had very direct orders from my doctor. You cannot talk for 3 weeks. So I had to take 3 weeks off. And then after that, I had to talk very quietly. So I actually had that in meetings where I was talking quietly and going over the agenda. That sucked. So, it's just super distracting. And, eventually I got to the point where I rehabbed and I was okay. But that's what that's for.
I always give this advice to my roofers. Raising voice, yelling, it's a weakness in general. Like when you raise voice, like at your kids, at your employees, you're showing that you're losing control of the situation. And the scariest thing in life for me, and that's what I tell everybody, is I'll give you a tip. Like think about it, like you go to the bar and you have someone trying to intimidate you, like fighting you, right? Like whatever. I learned it in my 20s from some very scary Russian people. Like very scary. You think about, you're like Russian Capone, They don't raise voice. Like very powerful men, they'll whisper to your ear and you shit your pants. Like if you come to a man in the bar who's trying to like fight you and you whisper something to his ear, and I've done it a few times, magic happens. Like I'm telling you what.
So this is our conference room. And this is usually where Blake and I work out of for the times that Blake is here. And, again, when we first kind of moved into this office, we said we didn't really want offices per se. We kind of all like working collectively in the same area whenever we're here. I'm not really an office guy. I don't like to stay around too much. So Blake is usually in here about once a week, and that's his spot.
Yeah.
Look, you have core values and everything. Have fun with it, bring it, measure it, improve it, own it. Wow.
You know, we always try to do is bring as much of a positive, fun aspect to the business as we can. We realize that, you know, roofing isn't the most sexy thing, and not everyone, you know, wakes up in the morning and says, man, I want to be a roof salesman today, or I want to go out and project manage for roofing. But, you know, we try to keep it light, you know, have fun with it. You know, it's so easy to kind of get caught up in things, especially, you know, with customer service and project management, and dealing with subs. At the end of the day, we just try not to take anything too seriously. Try to, you know, laugh as much as we can, and we realize sometimes things suck, and try to do the best with what you got and have a good time.